Back, friends. Welcome to my channel. This is Medical Coding with Blue, and today I'm going to talk about how it all started. How did medical coding find me? As I say all the time, because I always say that medical coding found me. I didn't find medical coding. So I was unemployed, and I had to file for unemployment because I had been laid off from my job. And so I had gone to my local workforce office and I had signed up, and they sent me to this class where they could find out what it was that you needed, like if you needed help to build your resume, or if you needed financial classes, or if you needed help getting a GED or something. They were there to send the people where they needed to go. Then they were telling us about this one program that they had where they could retrain you and put you in a different trade. And they had and I remember they had like medical assistant, and I knew that I didn't want to do that because I don't like needles. And then they had like beautician or carpentry or refrigeration, things like that. They had different trades. And so they had accounting, and so I said, well, I could do the accounting because I could work independently, and I had done the books previously for my previous job, and so I was good at math. And I said, well, I could do that. And so they sent us with our case manager, and I had this wonderful gentleman named Enrique, and he was a veteran, and he was very personable and really patient with me, and he was very nice. And I remember meeting him, and he's one of those people that you just remember meeting, like I can still see it to this day. And he came in and he said, well, have you decided what course you wanted to take? And I said, well, I was looking at the accounting because I had done the accounting for my previous job, and I was really interested in that because I could work independently. And he said, well, what about medical coding? And I told him, oh, no, I don't do nothing with needles, because I was sure that it had everything to do with needles. And he said, no, it's not anything with needles, no blood. And he goes, it has everything to do with reading medical charts and interpreting the information that's in the medical chart for insurance purposes or statistical purposes. I said it on the first try. I said it's statistical. Okay. Statistical. It's one of those words that you just kind of like, it just comes out, and it's like either it does or it doesn't. It came out. So anyway, he's like, yeah, that's what it's for. And so I was like, well, and I never heard of that. I didn't even know a thing about that. I didn't really put too much thought into how all that happened. All I know is I went to the doctor and I had to pay a bill, and that was it. I didn't know anything else. And so he said, well, yeah, just go and look at the schools and see what you think. And the starting average is like $14 an hour. And I was like, oh, well, I could do that. Let me just go check it out. So I went to 3 different schools, and I looked around the campus, and I talked to them. And the school that I chose, they said that they modeled their course after AHIMA, the American Health Information Management Association. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Even though I had no clue about any of the associations. I didn't know anything. Like I said, I was just completely blind. And so they said, no, it's a really good program, and you can go self-pace, and the average time span of this course is 9 months. You go through the course, and then you take your certification at the end, and then you're good to go. And so I said, oh, okay, I can do that. 9 months, not a big deal. So I decided on that school, and as I was working my way through the school, they would give you, like, for every module, they'd give you the new books. Well, the nerd in me, remember? Nerd, okay. loves books. I love the smell of books. I love opening new books. It's just me. I know it's weird. So every time I finished a course, that was like my incentive. I get a new set of books. And I guess they did that because like there was people that were dropping out of the course and they didn't want to waste all that money, and why should they, you know? So I was going through and I was enjoying my new books and I was studying really hard, and you know, that's the one thing when you're going through school is, and you know, at the time I guess I didn't really think about it, but having a really good support system really helps. So if you are in a position right now where you're going through school and you don't exactly have the best support system, you know, reach out to the local coding community and, you know, see if you can find a mentor or connect with somebody else that's in school with you, because, you know, going through this, you really do need to have a good support system. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that can make it through on their own and don't need anybody's help, and that's fine. You know, if that's you, then that's great, you know. But having that good support system is all the difference in the world. And for me, I was lucky enough that I had my mom and I had Enrique, you know. And Enrique was still relatively a stranger, but he encouraged me, and he, you know, he was right there right along with my mom. And my mom, God bless her, she made me flashcards, she drilled with me, you know, she was just, and anytime I would get frustrated, because I would get frustrated, oh my goodness, yeah. I would get so frustrated because, you know, I was trying to remember all of these things, and, you know, my mom kept reminding me, you know, you're not going to be able to absorb everything, but just absorb what you can and just do the best you can, because at the end of the day, that's all you can do. And so I was like, you know, of course, moms are always right, you know. So I worked through it. I mean, I you know, studied with my mom and she studied with me, and she was learning things too, you know, so we were learning together, and that was a lot of fun. And then, you know, talking with Enrique, and I would see him every week, and he would say, just for updates and checkups, and he was like, how's it going, you know, how's the school? And, you know, he's like, I goes, I'm just glad you're getting through the school, because, you know, there's so many people that just give up. And I said, that's sad, because to me, it's like, sometimes life does get in the way for some people, and, you know, things happen out of their control, and they can't always stay on school. But if you can stay on school, and if you can finish to the end, it is so worth it. It is worth all the hours and the tears and missing your family and missing out on moments just to get through school, because doing this changed my life. I mean, not to sound like a Hallmark card or something, but, you know, I mean, it really did. I don't know where in my life I would be right now if I hadn't taken that step to that class and sat there and said, no, I want to do accounting. And then if Enrique hadn't stepped in and said, well, what about medical coding? You know, I don't know where I would be, you know. It's just one of those things, and that's why I'm so glad I have YouTube to share all of this with. And, you know, maybe there's somebody else out there that's going through the same thing that I went through. And, you know, when you're getting through school, you're thinking, oh my God, I can't wait till this is over. I can't wait till this is done. And then you look back on that time and you kind of miss, you know, I kind of miss being in school. I kind of miss, you know, just the studying, and, you know, what are you doing now? What are you learning now? Oh, pathophysiology, or I'm on anatomy this week, or, you know, I'm learning the book this week, you know. And so, but like I said, just getting through and then helping other people. When I was in school, I literally read, they had a whole book on evaluation and management, okay? And it's part of medical coding, so I'll go into another video on that later. But that was one of my favorite parts of coding. You know, more than procedural coding, more than the diagnosis coding, I loved evaluation and management. Why? Because I literally read that book cover to cover. That was the one course that people were having a hard time with. And they were telling us before we started, you know, before they gave me the books, they said, people have a hard time with this course. And so sometimes they have to repeat it. And so they said, just do your best. And so I said, well, mess on this. I'm making good pace. I am going to read this book cover to cover. So I read that book cover to cover. And because I did that, I understand E&Ms very well, which to me it's easy, you know, even to this day, you know, it's no problem for me. You know, I can still, you know, work an E&M pretty quickly. And so, you know, I got through that course and, you know, I made it to the end. So I make it all the way to the end. And I actually set a record because, remember, the course is supposed to take you 9 months. Well, I made it through in 6 months because, and remember, incentive books, I know, weird. But I made it through in 6 months. And then at the end, you know, they do your little certificate where you graduate. And then they said, you know, you can schedule your test whenever you're ready. And so I said, okay, well, I waited 2 weeks after I graduated. So I said, you know, that ought to be a good enough amount of time. And my mom was like, you know, just take the time and study and, you know, I'll work with you. So she worked with me and she was like, you know, just don't study the week before, you know, because you already know all of this. And she would drill me and I would just be getting answers left and right, left and right. And she's like, you already know this. You got this. And so with her words, I was like, you know, you're right, Mom. You know, you're right. And so I said, okay, well, no studying for a whole week. So I didn't study the week that I had my exam because, you know, I already knew it. I mean, when you get to the end and you've had all those hours of study and you've had all that time to work your workbook and everything, at the end, when you take that test, that's all it is. It's just you and the test. And if you don't have it, you don't have it. But more often than not, you've got it. It's just all up here. You know, you just have to trust yourself. And trust your first instinct. When you are taking your test, whatever answer comes to your mind first, just go with it. Don't do the, it's this one, no, it's this one, no, it's this one, no, it's this one. And then you're just going back and forth and you're driving yourself crazy. You've got this. You understand it. Just do it, you know. So it's just basically like just jumping, you know. Just jump into that water. Just do it, you know. And so the day I took my test, I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie, you know. I'm not gonna sit here in front and say, oh yeah, I know. I went in there and I was so sure and I was so confident. I don't think anybody is. And if they do, God bless them. So, but, you know, I knew that I was ready, you know. And so I made good time on my test. You know, I finished when I was supposed to, right before I was supposed to, thank God. And so at the time, they told us, you know, if you passed or not at the testing center. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. I don't know what the parameters are for telling the results right away, but for me at the time, I was lucky enough to be able to get the answer right away. So I didn't have to wait, you know, for my test results to come in the mail. Just the thought of waiting for that, oh my God, that would have drove me nuts. So I took my test and I came out, and of course I'm sweating and I'm hungry because you know the test was a few hours, you know. So you know I'm tired and I'm thirsty and I'm just like my adrenaline is going, and I can't wait to find out if I passed or not. So I go up to the lady and I said, you know, you know, I'm checking out, you know, I'm done with my test. And she's like, okay. So I give her my name and everything, and so she said, I said, can you tell me if I passed or not? And she said, oh yeah, let me look. And I remember she was chewing gum. So she goes, oh yeah, you passed, it's right here. And so she printed out the paper. You want to know how loud I screamed? I mean, I'm an excitable person, but that was just like fireworks. So I was like, oh my god. And I just literally grabbed her and I hugged her, and I was just hugging her so tight. She was so gracious that she hugged me back, and she was just like, oh, congratulations. And I said, thank you. And I was so happy. I mean, all those hours and all that work, it was completely done, and I had passed. And they told us before that the pass rate for first-time test takers was not very high. And so I had to try to get that out of my mind too, because, you know, I knew that I was ready. I knew I had invested all those hours in studying, and this just proved it. So I was very excited. The first person I called was my mom, and of course my mom was like, I knew you were going to pass, you know. And my mom, you know, having the most confidence in me, you know, it's amazing, you know. And I remember her telling me she was very proud of me and congratulations. And she took me out that night for a very nice dinner at my favorite restaurant. And, you know, she was telling me, you know, how my life was going to change because, you know, I had done so well, and, you know, she saw how much I enjoyed it, and, you know, even getting through the school, and, you know, she knew this was going to be a good thing for me. And so a couple of days later I saw Enrique, and of course Enrique is just ecstatic, you know, and he's like, I knew you could do it, and he's like, I'm just so proud of you, and, you know, he's like, you know, I just can't wait for the next chapter for you. And, you know, just having that, you know, support and everything, and the fact that, you know, that part was done, you know, I felt like that was the hardest part, you know. Little did I know. But that part was completely behind me. But, you know, that's my story, and that's how it all started. So, but, you know, it was a lot of tears and, you know, a lot of triumph too, you know, to get to that point, you know. And, you know, but once you're there, there's no other greater feeling when you finish, you know. And so, but yeah, that was my story, and that's how it all started. So in my next video, I will be talking about how I got my first job. But anyway, I hope you all have enjoyed this video. I am Bleu Garcia, and this has been Medical Coding with Bleu. So I'll see you in the next time. Bye.